Patterns in the Sky by Ann J. Jacobs. What are some patterns that repeat every day? The sun. The sun is always in the sky. You can see it on sunny days. It is there on cloudy days too. The sun is a star. A star is a big ball of hot glowing gases. Light and heat on Earth's surface come from the sun. Earth is small compared to the sun, but they are both shaped like a ball. Earth does not make its own light. The side of Earth facing the sun is lit by sunlight. The side of Earth facing away from the sun is dark. Day and night. Earth is moving all the time. It spins around an imaginary line called an axis. One end of this line passes through the North Pole. The other end passes through the South Pole. Earth spins on its axis in a counterclockwise direction. This is the opposite direction of the way hands on a clock move. The sun is at its highest point in the sky at around noon. The sun appears to move lower in the western sky as Earth rotates. Earth makes one full spin on its axis every 24 hours. This is called a rotation. During this time, half of Earth faces the sun. It is daytime there. The other half of Earth has night. Earth always rotates at the same speed. During the year, some days have more sunlight than others. The number of hours of sunlight and darkness changes. But the total hours of sunlight and darkness in a day always add up to 24 hours. Daytime begins when Earth's rotation causes the sun to appear over the eastern horizon. The sun may trick you. It appears to rise in the east. Then the sun seems to move across the sky and set in the west. But the sun is not moving at all. It only appears to move. It is really Earth that is moving. Shadows. Have you ever stood in the shade of a tree? If so, you are really standing in a shadow. A shadow forms when an object blocks the light that hits it. The shadow is cast onto a surface. It is shaped like the object that blocks the light. The length and direction of shadows change. Find the shadow in the top picture. The sun appeared in the east. The shadow is long. It stretches in the opposite direction from the sun. Morning shadows stretch toward the west. Find the shadow in the middle picture. At noon, the sun is high in the sky. Shadows are short. Later in the day, shadows become longer again. Afternoon shadows stretch toward the east. You can see this in the bottom picture. Once the sun disappears, there is no light to make shadows. What patterns repeat every year? Earth moves around the sun. Earth turns on its axis. Earth's axis is not straight up and down. It is tilted. Earth also moves, or revolves, around the sun. In 1 year, Earth moves all the way around the sun. This trip is called a revolution. As Earth moves, Its axis always points in the same direction. The part of Earth tilted toward the sun gets the most light. June. The northern half of Earth tilts toward the sun. This half gets more sunlight than the southern half. It is summer in the northern half. It is winter in the southern half. September. The northern and southern halves get the same amount of sunlight. The northern half of Earth is cooling down. The southern half is warming up. December. The northern half of Earth tilts away from the sun. This half gets less sunlight than the southern half. It is winter in the northern half. In the southern half, it is summer. March. The northern and southern halves of Earth get equal amounts of sunlight. The northern half is warming up. The southern half is cooling down. Sometimes the northern half of Earth tilts toward the sun. At other times the southern half tilts toward it. The part tilted toward the sun gets the most direct sunlight. This part gets the most heat. It also gets more hours of daylight than darkness in a day. Seasons. The 4 seasons are spring, summer, fall, and winter. Which one do you like the best? The amount of sunlight changes from season to season. So do temperatures. These changes happen in patterns. Temperatures are often hot in the summer. In winter, temperatures are usually cold. Think about December. The northern half of Earth is tilted away from the sun. This means it gets less sun. Temperatures are cold. There are fewer hours of daylight. In different seasons, the sun's place in the sky changes. This is due to Earth's tilted axis. The sun is higher in the sky in summer. The sun is lower in the sky in winter. In spring and fall, Earth's axis is not pointed toward the sun or away from it. Temperatures are not as cold as winter, but they are not as hot as summer. The hours of daylight and darkness are about the same each day. Why does the moon's shape change? The moon and Earth. The moon rotates and revolves like Earth. The moon rotates on its axis. It revolves around Earth. The moon takes about 27 days to make one rotation. The moon makes one revolution in almost the same amount of time. The closest natural object to Earth is 384,000 kilometers, or 239,000 miles away. It is the moon. At night, the moon is very bright, but the moon does not make its own light. Light from the sun shines on the moon and bounces off. You can see the moon sometimes during the day. This is because daytime light in the air is less bright. We always see the same side of the moon from Earth. No one saw the other side until a spacecraft took pictures of it in 1959. The moon and the sun. Sometimes the moon looks like a circle. At other times you cannot see the moon at all. Between these times you can only see part of the moon. This pattern of changes is the same. It starts over about every 4 weeks, or 29 and a half days. Each different way that the moon looks is called a phase. You see more of the moon each night until the phase called a full moon. Then you start to see less of the moon. Soon you cannot see the moon at all. This phase is called a new moon. Half of the moon is always lighted. We cannot always see this half. We see different amounts of the lighted half as the moon and Earth move. Lunar eclipse. A lunar eclipse is caused by the moon moving behind Earth. When it does, Earth blocks sunlight from reflecting off the moon. During a lunar eclipse, Earth's shadow covers the whole moon. Phases of the moon. Full moon. This phase is a week after the first quarter. We can see all of the lighted half of the moon. It looks like a circle. New moon. The dark half of the moon faces toward Earth. We cannot see the moon at all. Crescent. This phase is right after the new moon. Now we see only a small piece of the lighted part of the moon. First quarter. This phase is a week after the new moon. The moon looks like a half circle. Star patterns. Stars and the telescope. Suppose you are looking at the night sky. Do you see stars? Stars may look small, but they are far away. Some stars are bigger than the sun. Others are smaller. The stars that are very far away can be hard to see. There are tools to help you see these stars. A telescope magnifies faraway objects as binoculars do. Both tools make objects look bigger. Then the objects are easier to see. There are different kinds of telescopes. Some use tubes, mirrors that reflect light, and lenses that bend light. These parts let lots of light into the telescope. This makes objects in the sky easy to see. There are even telescopes that do not collect light waves. They collect different waves instead. Some collect radio waves. Patterns of stars. Some stars seem to be in groups. These groups make patterns. A group of stars that make a pattern is called a constellation. See how the lines connect the stars together in two groups below? One looks like a big cup. It is part of a larger constellation. The other looks like a little cup. Its stars make up a second constellation. Long ago, people saw many shapes in star patterns. They saw objects, animals, and people. They made up stories about what they saw. They gave these constellations names that we still use today. The stars in a constellation look close together, but they are very far apart. What if you looked at the same stars from far away in deep outer space? You would see different patterns. Like the sun, stars seem to move across the sky, but the stars really do not move. It just looks that way. This is because Earth is rotating on its axis. Star patterns change with the seasons. As Earth moves around the sun, constellations are in different places in the sky. Look at the sky tonight. You might see the moon. What phase is it in? Can you see any stars? What about constellations? The sun has many patterns. It is fun to learn about the patterns and watch them.